Cultural Aspects of Conflict Management, Managing Diversity, brought to you by the diplomats, Christy Chappelle, Lisa Hudson, Adriana Marshall, and Genario Pittman. Why some organizations are more successful at cultural aspects of conflict and management. Leaders at the executive level are the principal source for the generation and reinfusion of an organization's ideology, articulation of core values, and specific of norms within the organization. Cultural norms and values. The values and norms of the organization set the standard for functionality of the organization and the members of the organization, of how the organization and the members handle conflict and the appropriate manner to approach it. What are cultural norms? Cultural norms express the behaviors accepted by others. What are cultural values? Cultural values of the organization express preferences for certain behaviors and outcomes. The importance of the values and norms within the organization. The values and norms of an organization establishes the permanence of the culture of the organization. Role of executive leadership in establishing the values and norms within the organization. If executive leadership does not establish the origin of the values and norms within the organization and or do not generate the standard functionality to the members of the organization, then it will increase the possibility of an organization developing conflict, low morale, dysfunction, and members working against one another. Role of executive leadership in establishing the values and norms within the organization. If the executive leadership does not establish the origin of the values and norms, this decreases the chances of conflict within the organization and increases the chances of members working together and not against one another. Factors of consideration for organizations regarding cultural aspects of cultural management. There are cultural differences, gender differences, and generational differences. So let's start off by talking about cultural differences. Culture is the characteristics of a particular group of people, defined by everything from language, religion, cuisine, social habits, music, and arts. Culture is a major element of both everyday human interaction and cross-cultural business negotiations. Cultural influences. Due to negotiation being a part of the human activity connected with problem solving, which is oriented towards peaceful means of dispute resolution, it is important to be aware of cultural influences on negotiation styles. There are 5 fundamental dimensions illustrating values within national cultures. The 5 values having consequences for how people in different cultures behave and how they will potentially behave in a work-related context include power, distance, collectivism versus individualism, masculinity and femininity, uncertainty, avoidance, and long-term orientation. The 5 dimensions were originally collected from a study concluded by Gert Hefstow. His information was developed to provide information to assist individuals and companies in their ability to engage effectively in negotiations or interactions with people from other countries. Cultural difference example. If you look to the chart to the right, according to the research of Hofstede, the Chinese score a higher power distance index, PDI, value of 80 than the United States, 40. Therefore, Chinese citizens believe they are far removed from the country's center of power. They feel there is little they can do to affect the country on a large scale and are more comfortable with inequalities. On the opposite end, USA scored much lower, meaning that its citizens believe they are closer to the center of power. Different cultures have the ability to influence the way individuals perceive and approach certain key elements in the negotiating process. Having knowledge of these cultural differences may help negotiators, organizations to better understand and interpret their counterparts' negotiating behavior and to find ways to bridge gaps created by cultural differences, thus reducing the amount of conflict between parties. An area of diversity that has not been fully explored. Workplace diversity expands every day. We have seen a significant shift from a heterosexual male business world to one that now also includes varying gender identities, including female, homosexual, bisexual, gender fluid, and transgender individuals. We are now speaking of gender diversity within the workplace. Gender versus sex. Commonly considered interchangeable terms, but they are not. Gender, for example, does not necessarily reflect physical anatomy. One's sex is biologically determined, one's gender is socially and self-determined. The concept of sex refers to a person's physical makeup, for example, chromosome identification, reproductive organs, and hormones. The complex interrelationship between those traits and one's internal sense of self as male, female, both or neither, as well as one's outward presentations and behaviors related to that perception. One's gender is determined through social conditioning and influence, as well as one's own personal preferences. Gender influences all aspects of interactions, including conflict within the workplace. What is true gender diversity? The United States has a binary view of gender, when in reality, gender is a non-binary concept. While organizational gender diversity does incorporate the physical male-female differences, it also includes gender expression and gender identity. Gender diversity is a term that recognizes that many people's preferences and self-expression fall outside commonly understood gender norms. Gender is its own cultural category in which social interaction is influenced. Gender socialization results in different ways of learning and creating knowledge, playing differently in other childhood socialization experiences, differences in role modeling of behaviors for each gender by fathers and mothers, and differences in the way men and women are portrayed in the media. Is gender diversity beneficial? Gender diversity is associated with increased sales revenue, more customers, and greater relative profits. Diverse organizational cultures are better equipped to meet their customers' needs, understand new market niches, and offer improved personalized products and services. Gender diversity expands employee outlook, improves work teams, and opens new doors for conflict resolution. Differences in gender types will certainly contribute to a rise in workplace conflict. However, successful resolution results in improved relationships, increased critical thinking, and better problem solving within the organization. Gender and conflict management. There is, however, a substantial amount of research concerning how different sexes, male and females, deal with conflict differently. Regrettably, many of these studies contradict one another, and there seems to be a disagreement among scholars about the ways that sex affects conflict resolution. The reasoning behind the result of gender conflict management is the researchers have typically studied sex, not gender. This area deserves greater attention and dedication from researching institutions, as our workplaces now include a wider variety of gender types, not only traditional male and females. Now let's take a look at generational differences in the workplace. The traditional generation is the oldest generation in the workplace. The traditional generation was born before 1945. They are loyal workers, highly dedicated, averse to risk, and strongly committed toward teamwork and collaboration. The baby boom generation. Baby boomers are people born between 1943 and 1965. They grew up in an area of prosperity and optimism, and bolstered by the sense that they are a special generation capable of changing the world. The entirety of this generation will reach the traditional retirement age of 65 within the next 25 years. Generation X. Individuals born between 1968 and 1979. They grew up with a stagnant job market, corporate downsizing, and limited wage mobility. and are the first individuals predicted to earn less than their parents did. Money does not motivate members of this generation, but the absence of money might lead them to lose motivation. Generation Y. Members of Generation Y may include individuals born between 1980 and 1999. This generation has been shaped by parental accesses, computers, and technological advances. They seek flexibility, are independent, desire a more balanced life, and are multitaskers. The key difference is within the workplace. Among these generations, with authority and leadership, traditionalists usually command and control. They rarely question authority. Baby boomers respect for power and accomplishment. Generation X, the rules are flexible. Collaboration is important. Generation Y, value freedom and autonomy. Less inclined to pursue leadership positions. Key workplace dimensions when relating to communication. Traditionalists prefer formal yet personal conversations through proper channels and one-on-one. Baby boomers, somewhat formal through structured network, mix of electronic and face-to-face. Generation X, casual, direct, and electronic, sometimes skeptical. They need feedback and they hate supervision. Generation Y, fast, casual, direct, and high-tech, eager to please. Key workplace dimensions, technology. Traditionalist, complex, and challenging. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Baby boomers, necessary for progress and achievement. Generation X, practical tools for getting things done. Generation Y, what else is there? They're always looking for more technology. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you. We value your time. We value you taking the time to watch our video. Please take time to complete our group assessment within Diplomat PowerPoint number 2 and provide feedback in the Team 1 class discussion area.